Hello, nieces and niestas. How are you today? Welcome back to the channel. I want to thank you guys for coming back to the channel. I'm SavingsFashionista. She is I, and I am her. And over here, we do mainly things fragrances. And today, we are here to do a fragrance recap. And you guys, this recap is very relevant in this time. So if you're interested in hearing what I have to say about these fragrances that I want to talk about, please. Okay, so today, you guys, as you know, it is mid-July. Well, we're really at the end of July. We've made it through 2 quarters of 2023, and we are well off into our third quarter. So what I decided to do is I wanted to share with you recap my thoughts on the fragrances that have already been released in 2023. Now, it's not going to be all of the fragrances because I think it's probably nearly 30 fragrances that have already been released. I only have experienced about half of these fragrances. So I have like 17 fragrances that I have experienced or purchased in some form. The ones that I have experienced, I have had decants for all of them, have gone into the stores to sample them or have sampled them in some form. And I just want to share with you all. And I'm going to also provide a rankings. They will be ranked. So this is the halfway mark, and hopefully by the end of 2023 or right at the beginning of 2024, God bless us all to make it there, I will have more input or maybe a different stance on these fragrances. So we're going to start off. I have 17 fragrances. So we're going to start off with the number 17. And the fragrance that I put in the number 17 slot is the Aquamedia Cologne Forte by Mason Francis Kurkdjian. And this fragrance was released on June 1st, and I will not give the exact release date, only the ones that are just vivid in my mind or a roundabout date. So this was released June 1st, and the reason that I know this is because I went into Saks and they had this exhibition up and they were really promoting this fragrance. So this is a unisex fragrance. It is definitely a citrusy, fresh type of fragrance. I would even say that it has a little aquaticness to it. It has some fragrance notes of verbena, bergamot, matcha tea, and musk. So when I initially heard about the fragrance and saw that matcha tea note, I was really excited about it. Went in store, sampled the fragrance, did not like it on first take. The essay gave me this actual decant here to sample and experience it some at home, and I still was not overly intrigued by the fragrance. The reason that I don't like this fragrance is because this fragrance, it goes sour on my skin. It's the combination of the citrusy mandarin notes that just do not agree with my particular skin pheromone, and it just does not wear well. Even sampling it on my husband, it was nice, but I was just not wowed about the fragrance. So this made it to the number 17 spot, and I strategically forefronted my fragrance reviews because I did do a fragrance review on my most like and my least like. So if you have not checked out my detailed review on the Aquamedia Cologne Forte, you can click the card above and you can get a little bit more in-depth thoughts on what I felt about this fragrance. So again, at number 17, it is Mason Francis Kurkdjian Aquamedia Cologne Forte. Okay, so in the number 16 slot is, and I have my little notes here, is the Lime Sands. And Lime Sands is by the fragrance house Skylar. Now, Skylar is one of those natural whole ingredients fragrance houses. I do like the concept of that. It's just a good thing to try to be as natural as you can. And this is a really nice, clean fragrance. It really smells like clean detergent, some type of clean lime detergent. It has some fragrance notes of lime, sea salt, coconut, and lily of the valley. Very nice fragrance. I don't like that they come in rollerball, but you have to get what you can. So I decided to get this during the VIB sale, and I just wanted to get a sample or experience of it. So I did get this. I have paired this with the Wood Sage and Sea Salt by Jo Malone, and it wears nice. It really does. It wears nice with cherry forward fragrances. It's a decent fragrance. Do I think it's full bottle worthy for me? No, it is not. But if you're into that clean, fresh, fruity, like, it's not over. When I think about fruity, although limes and citrus fruits fall into fruity, but it's in its own category, if you get what I'm saying. So if you're into like a citrusy, sweet type of fragrance that has that clean note to it, I would definitely recommend this. So again, in the number 16 slot, this is Lime Sands by Skylar. Okay, in the number 15 is Spring Flowers 2023. And the reason that I say 2023, because this fragrance was released in the early 2000s. I have experienced this fragrance in the previous time as well as this time. I actually bought the fragrance, returned it because it was just too green and floral for my liking, and I still kind of feel the same way even with the most recent release. So this fragrance is by Creed, and it is Spring Flowers. It is a floral fragrance. It does have a very highly green effect to it. For me, it has some fragrance notes of grapefruit, peach, and white florals. I don't get the peachy note in this. Even in the dry down, I'm just not picking up that peach note, but I do think that it has its little following, and those of us ladies or gentlemen who are really off into those green floral type fragrance, this would definitely be for you. It's not for me. I just don't like it. It's almost like it could be sinus triggering for me because the floral note is so pungent. It's just really deep. So you definitely get that, and it puts you in the mind of spring flowers, like you're in the field with green grass, all type of vegetation around with all sorts of flowers. So again, in the number 15 spot is Spring Flowers 2023 by Creed. All right, in the number 14 slot is one of the most recent ones that was just released at the end of June, which it was released June 29th, I want to say. And this is from the house of K.I. Lee. This is a part of the wedding collection. This was released with its partner, which is the Velvet Santal, but this is the Silk Santal, and this was designed for females. The fragrance notes are sparkling champagne, white freesia, pink praline, lust nectar, sandalwood, and sugared musk. K.I. Lee definitely did her thing with this particular fragrance. It is a sweet vanilla sandalwood type of fragrance. I do like the fragrance, but I do have other sandalwoods that I like better. Beautiful fragrance. It pairs well like all of her fragrances does, and I'm happy to have it in my collection. So again, in the number 14 slot is Silk Santal by K.I. Lee. In the number 13 slot, we have something from the house of Kilian, and this is the latest from Kilian. This is I Don't Need a Prince by My Side to Be a Princess. This is the sequel of the original princes that come in the black bottle. And this is the Eau de Fresh. So this is everything that you get inside of the original Kilian, but it has a very high note of bergamot to bring in that freshness, as well as a green tea note. Now, I was really excited about this fragrance, couldn't wait to get it. And I think this fragrance is exclusive at Sephora, because when I went to Saks to sample it, they said they would not be getting it and they didn't have it. So this is a Sephora exclusive. I do like the fragrance, but it was just not what I anticipated it to be. Nice fragrance. It does require some layering. So what I've been doing to get more of that sweet note, because it tends to just go green on me and it flats it like a tea green note, and it becomes flat. So I wanted more of like a sweet tea note. So what I do, I have been mixing this fragrance with other fragrances as well as its partner, and to amp up that marshmallow sweet note that I like. But I am enjoying this fragrance. So again, in the number 13th spot is Princess Eau de Fresh by Kilian. Now in the number 12 slot, we have another clean, natural fragrance. And this is from the house of the 7 Virtues. Very nice fragrance. If you buy this, be careful because this does twist on and off. Really nice fragrance. It's a coconut fragrance. It has frangipani. It has some rose. It has coconut water in it. It's a really nice fragrance. It's exotic. It is vacation vibe. It is definitely warm summer vibe. Really like this fragrance. I do think that I probably will eventually get a full bottle of this because I do like coconut fragrances. It's really pretty, but it does take some layering because it is more of a clean fragrance. And with clean houses, you just have to do a little bit more, in my opinion, if you want that long lasting or even nuclear type of fragrance. So again, in the number 12 spot, this is Coconut Suns by the 7 Virtues. Now moving down to the number 11 spot is from Bath and Body Works. This was one of their releases, new releases, and this came out with 2 other fragrances. This is now part of the Gingham line. I don't know if this is going to be a permanent fragrance release or if it was just this one time. You know how Bath and Body Works does it, but it came out with this one, which is the Fresh. It also had a Vibrant, which is in the purple bottle, and it had the Gingham Gorgeous, which was in the pink. This is a very beautiful fragrance. It's green. It's a fruity floral type of fragrance. It has pear, daisies, and clementine. Very beautiful type of fragrance. Very summer, spring forward. And it's a strong fragrance. I like that about it. It has that lasting effect to it, and it does come with the partnered body care items. So I didn't get the actual full bottle. I bought like 3 or 4 of these, and this is my last one, so that lets you know how well I like it. And it was noted by one of my fellow content creators, Miss Tracy, over here and on Instagram, that the same person who the perfume who that created Bun Number 9's Central Park, it's the one in the pink and green. Madison Square Park. Madison Square Park, I always get it confused. It's the same perfumer that created this Gingham Fresh, and you can tell that it has a very similar DNA. So again, in the number 11 spot, this is Gingham Fresh by the house Bath and Body Works. All right, now in the number 10 slot is something that I think a lot of us in this perfume world is very familiar with because this has its own fan base, and it is from the house of Dolce and Gabbana, and it is the light blue fragrance, but this is their latest release, Summer Vibes Light Blue, and it has, of course, the bergamot, the citrusy, clean type of fragrance DNA. It has some cedar in it, as well as musk and peach. So the prominent attraction for this with me was the actual peach note. So I had already envisioned in my mind what I was expecting before I even went to Ulta and purchased this. The peach note is relatively prominent in this fragrance. You definitely can smell it, but the lasting power, you have to layer it. I had to layer it. It just does not last long on my skin. And this is Eau de Toilette, I think. So yeah, so that could be the reason as well. I don't know if it came in an EDP or not, but you know what you get when you get the different phases of fragrances. The higher the oil concentration, the longer the fragrance tend to last. So again, in the number 10 spot is Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue Summer Vibes. And the number 9 spot is also from the house of Bath and Body Works. And I am so irritated with myself that I did not get this in a full size bottle. I'm glad that I have it in this mini, as well as in the body care products, the lotion and the cream and the fine fragrance. But this is Coco Paradise. This is so good, you guys. It has a note of neroli, salt, sandalwood, and sugar. And of course, coconut. This is so pretty. This This is running neck to neck with Utopia Vanilla Cocoa by K.I. Lee. Not as good, but it's good. This is really good. It's sexy. It has that coconut vibe to it. You can pick up that neroli that gives it that prettiness and that girly type vibe. This is really nice. Hate that I didn't get it in full bottle because I do think that they had it for 75% at SAS. I don't know what I was thinking. Thinking about candles is probably what I was thinking, that I did not pick this up. But if they come out with this again, I will definitely get a full size bottle. So again, in the number 9 spot, this is Cocoa Paradise by Bath and Body Works. And the number 8 spot comes from my favorite house, you know, if you know. And this is New York Flowers from the house of Bun number 9. This is a spring floral fragrance. It's definitely floral and it is so potent. It has notes of jasmine, rose, iris, and Kirk Royale. I don't get that effervescence in it. This is strictly green and floral in my opinion, and it is very strong. I'm going to wait until it comes out in the 1.7 because it is so strong and the lasting power is really good, till it will probably take me over 5 years to go through a 100 ml bottle. So I'm definitely waiting until it comes out in the smaller bottle. But this did make it to the number 8 slot. Again, this is New York Flowers. So in the number 7 spot is, I think it's the first fragrance that I bought 2023. And this is from the house of Tom Ford. This is Electric Cherry. This, it didn't do as well as I thought that it would, because, and sometimes that happens, you know, when you just have like this fan following for a fragrance and then they try to replicate it, not so much duplicate it, but replicate it and get that same buzz. It just doesn't always pan out. And I think that that's what they were doing because Tom Ford has such a broad following with the Lost Cherry. But I'm on the opposite side of that spectrum, because it's not that I don't like the Lost Cherry, it's just that it was something in it that just does not agree with my skin. So I was really excited about these fragrances because I'm like, okay, what Tom is offering in the Lost, maybe it will be depleted in these other new cherry fragrances. But this fragrance just did not go off well. However, I really, really like this fragrance. This fragrance is so soft. The more I wear this fragrance or have worn this fragrance, it gives me like this cherry soapy effect to it. I don't know if that's the jasmine sambac in this, but if you have smelled the Scarlet Poppy by Joe Malone, this puts you in the mind of that. It is very similar to that. This is a very beautiful fragrance, you guys. It is soft, it's subtle. You get that cherry note, but it's something that's clean, fresh, and soapy in this fragrance. I do really like this fragrance. I'm glad that I have it in my collection. It did make it to the number 7 slot. And again, this is Electric Cherry by Tom Ford. Okay, in the number 6 spot is the counterpart to this. It was released at the same time. I'll leave a picture. I did get a decant when I went in and purchased this. They gave me a decant of the smoked cherry. When I went in store and sampled it, you know, I had an option. I could get either or. I was not going to get both because they jacked the price up on these. And the smoked cherry, at that moment, it was very similar to the Lost Cherry, and I was afraid that it was going to give me that effect that I don't like. But this is a really good fragrance, and I cannot wait to add it to my collection. It has sour cherry, it has saffron, it has a leather note, and has smoke oud in it. It is a super nice fragrance. The cherry note in it, it is more cherry than in the Electric Cherry. And to me, it's a similar but different cherry note that you get in the Lost Cherry. Because I think the similarities in the Lost Cherry and the smoked cherry is that oud leathery effect, but that cherry is definitely different The cherry and lost cherry is more of a liqueur cherry, but the cherry and the smoked cherry is definitely that sour, tarty type of cherry. So it made it to the number 6 slot, and I do plan on adding the smoked cherry to my collection. And it's a beautiful fragrance. Really enjoyed it. Out of the two, I do think that the smoked cherry has a more liking than the actual electric cherry. All right, so now in the number 5 spot, you guys, we're getting down. So we're at number 5. It is from the house of Amouage, and this is their latest fragrance, Guidance. Guidance has its own fan base. It is very popular. It's definitely one of those fragrances that I would not recommend blind buying. Shout out to Lucky Scents. They sent me over a decant. This is one of those fragrances I do believe you either like it or you don't. Smelling it just in the air or smelling it on paper, it is not going to give you what it should or what I feel that it should. You're definitely going to have to apply this to skin. The way that this fragrance has been blended and combined, I do think that it needs your personal pheromones in order for you to give it a valid review or your thoughts. This fragrance has notes of pear, hazelnut, osmanthus, rose, saffron, and akigali wood. It's the akigali wood for me, you guys. This is a very mystique type of oud fragrance. Like I say, you either like it or you don't. So it's definitely the akigali wood in here as well as the saffron. I do pick up some of the peach fruitiness in it, but what I experienced on card is something totally different from what I experienced when I wore it and I let it dry down. This fragrance is so beautiful, you guys. If you have not checked it out, I would definitely recommend checking it out, and you want to apply it to really see what it has to offer. So again, this is Guidance from the house of Amouage. All right, in the number 4 spot, this is also something that I was bought in with from Lucky Scents by sending me a decant. This is number 4, and this is the Ingenious Ginger. This was just released, I want to say June, maybe May, but this is a new fresh release, and it has notes of ginger, citrus, mandarin, rose, sandalwood, and musk. It is definitely the musk and the sandalwood that got me. When I first applied this fragrance in my plus points, I was like, this is more male forwarding because that ginger, it has that spiciness to it that, you know, most of us think about when we think about male fragrances. Let me stop speaking for y'all, most of us. Well, what I think about, let me correct that. When I'm smelling male fragrances, the ginger, it's beautiful. It's not too overbearing, but as this fragrance dried down, I could really get the unisex aspect of it. And the sandalwood is everything that my little fragrance heart has been desiring here recently with these sandalwood fragrances that I have been off into. So again, in the number 4 spot, this is Ingenious Ginger by Goldfield and Banks. All right, and the number 3 spot is from the house of K.I. Lee. This is the counterpart to Silk Santal. This is Velvet Santal. It has fragrance notes of jasmine petals, peach leaves, white musk, cedarwood, benzoin, and sandalwood. It's the sandalwood, you guys. It's the sandalwood and the musk. This has the K.I. Lee Musk 12 note in it, but that sandalwood, as it dries down, it is so beautiful, you guys. It's just absolutely beautiful. This is supposed to be more for a gentleman, but all things now, in my opinion, is unisex. But as I wore this and the more I played around and experienced, I'm like, I think I like the male version for me better than the, you know, suggested female version. Beautiful fragrance, you guys. I am definitely enjoying this, and it has to be the sandalwood. We're just gonna blame it on the sandalwood, okay? So in the number 3 spot, this is the Wedding Velvet Santal 35. The number 2 fragrance also comes from the house of K.I. Lee, and this is the Yum Pistachio Gelato 33. This was released early spring. I want to say it was either March or April. It was released early spring. This is a gourmand delight. It is so beautiful, you guys. This fragrance, it has pistachio gelato, hazelnut, sweet rum, whipped cream, marshmallow, and cotton candy. So if you're one of those sweet girls, gourmand, sweet type of girls, you definitely want to get this. But it does have that fresh, clean DNA to it as well. This fragrance, you know, you're gonna always have some pros and cons. When I initially got it, I do agree that the lasting power is not what I would have, thought a lasting power for EDP to be. However, after layering this and just experiencing with it even more, as you can see, it has definitely become a love of mine. Right now, this holds the #1 spot as far as my KILE rankings. If you have not checked that video out, you can also click the card above and check that out. But I am totally enjoying this. You can tell this is a serious dent. It's like halfway gone. And I have other fragrances that I've had far longer than this one. And this one has gotten a lot of attention from me. So again, in the #2 spot, this is the Yum Pistachio Gelato 33 by KILE. And in the #1 spot, you guys, I'm sure you probably guessed it. Yes, Valaya from the house of Parfums de Marly. This fragrance was released in February, you guys. When it was initially released, my SA called. I could not wait to get in store to sample it. I sampled the fragrance. I was not intrigued enough at that time I liked it, don't get me wrong, but I was like, it's not an immediate must-have. So I didn't purchase it right then and there. If you want to hear my in-depth thoughts on this fragrance, you can click the card above because I did do a full dedicated review for this fragrance as well as my least like. So click that card above. But this fragrance is absolutely beautiful. It has Mr. Quentin Biche DNA all over it. Quentin Biche is the gentleman that created the Delina series, this as well as Guidance. That mysterious Aqua wood note that you get in Guidance, you get the same thing in here. It is so beautiful. This, as far as performance, it gets a 10 out of 10. As far as smell, it gets a 10 out of 10. This is a very exclusive, beautiful, mysterious, musky type fragrance. I don't get a whole lot of fruitiness from it. I'm totally getting that Aqua wood oudi note as well as the musky note. So this is like a musky oud in my opinion. It is absolutely beautiful. It wears well even on gentlemen. My husband has paired this with Creed Aventus. It smells so good even on him. I paired it with Creed Windflower as well as the Delina La Rose. This is an absolutely beautiful fragrance, you guys. If it's gonna hold the #1 spot, who knows? You know, sometimes things change. Well, all the time things change in the fragrance world because fragrance is so subjective. But I am looking forward to more releases this year. I do plan to revisit with all of these fragrances and any others that will be added to my collection to revitalize or revise my rankings of the fragrance. So I want to thank you guys for coming back to the channel. If you have any additional questions about any of the fragrances I shared, if you have comments about any of the fragrances that I've shared that you've experienced, please leave those comments below. Any recommendation of newly released fragrances that I have not experienced, leave those things below. I want to thank you guys for coming back to the channel, and do not forget, you, yes you are great. Bye-bye.